There is one key question in Latent Ink collection. What does it mean to be human in this age of radical technological transformations? So based on this question mark, which is already here in most of my works, but this is definitely the centerpiece now of my practice and this collection, I'm trying to combine like the cubism approach, where they deconstructed perception, like depth, all the different facets of the work, but also I'm combining this with transhumanism. We are in an era now where I think we are humans, but we are augmented humans. I invented this term to describe my practice at this point in time, and this is what I call neurogeometry. I'm combining neural networks with a more classical, geometrically based approach with some code. And I'm really trying to visualize these enhanced human art forms. So in the beginning, I was not too keen on using AI in my practice. That also was a starting point. I was very much against it. I was collecting it, but for me, I felt almost like it was unfair. Like I could spend like 18 months coding an algorithm with the help of my team as well, when you could like prompt a model and have sometimes interesting results. So I was like, no, this can't be. And then I realized that the early fathers and mothers of generative art, like in the 60s, they had to face this kind of criticism. No, this is not art because you're using a computer. So I was like, okay, I'm becoming that guy, and that's not possible. So the condition I gave to myself was like, okay, let's work with AI, but let's make it your own in a way. And my way of doing this was to use all the drawings I could gather that I drew and like scan them, putting them in a model, training the model, trying different architectures, different models. I did not design the architecture, but I kind of fed the model with my own hand drawings and also my more like classical generative artwork series. Then I started to explore the outputs, but I wanted to be kind of loyal to myself in a way. So I said, okay, now I want to combine this with some code. That's when I was like missing a connecting layer. And in order to connect, let's say, the classical generative artwork approach and the algorithms, plus the custom trained AI model, I used machine vision to kind of interconnect the two. For me, this is like a tango where you have AI generating some pixel colors and you have the code, which is trying to understand what the AI is saying, and they try to synchronize together. Machine vision is like the ropes, and they're connecting both parts, and I'm trying to orchestrate that. And I'm kind of putting the cursor, sometimes a little bit more AI, sometimes a little bit more code. And when the result is something I like, I'm like, okay, this is it. I'm kind of taking almost like a picture. I'm freezing everything in time, and this is it. In the origins of the project, and it's definitely the continuation of the Art Blocks neural sediment drop, where I was exploring the cognitive biases, I was starting to be fascinated by the artifacts created by AI. So as you can see in the neural sediment, that's when I started to use a lot the organic and paper-like texture, which you can find in the Latent Ink collection as a kind of evolved form. But initially, the Latent Ink was just code only, pretty much. So I was finding all these kind of neural networks, kind of weird behavior that you could spot, and I was like coding them. And I wanted to make a project which was code-based, 100%. I was also fascinated by AI because I studied cognitive psychology, and in the beginning of the 2000s, I mean, we were already studying AI at the university. It was just completely a different paradigm. So I was familiar with the theme, and also I remember in 2021, I minted 2 or 3 works which were only AI-based. I kind of dabbled a little bit into this space, even though my thing is definitely coding. So I was a little bit in between, and this is how everything started. I created this kind of bias exploration machine where this is kind of almost like if I had a machine in my head, which is helping me to visualize what I have in there, but also making it much better in some ways. So I'm here to visualize in real time and collaborating with the machine, because as you can see in the plotted works, this is not only myself and code and AI, this is myself, the code, AI, and robots drawing. And for me, this is very important to see the separation between the synthetic art forms, which for me is like the digital ones, combined with the printed ones or the plotted ones. And you have also this kind of gap between the digital work and how it looks interpreted by a machine while having a human in between. So this is this kind of interconnection of entities which is resulting in the work of the Latent Ink collection. So if you zoom in the Latent Ink collection artworks, you will see that you have a lot of lines. For me, the lines is like the core of an artwork. Everything is like a line at the end of the day. So the code is tracing the lines. This is like one of the very specific case of why do I use P5GS. This open source library is to kind of detect the path around what the AI is saying, if you will. This is definitely doing the contours and highlighting some areas, also separating the color distribution. So the lines for me is really complementary with everything else, but it's also like a centerpiece of the work, because looking at the works without having the lines, it's a completely different story. So that's for the P5GS. For the GLSL shaders, it's completely different. The shaders, they don't draw anything, but if you zoom in and look at the works, you will see that they have a paper-like texture. This is not coming from the giclée printing process. This is code generated. And I spent a disproportionate amount of time trying to recreate like a paper texture with code, because for me, I care about this. I like to recreate this kind of human touch with the code, but enhanced. And if we go back to this transhumanism, cubism / neurogeometry, this is what it's all about, is we are enhanced thanks to the technology. And doing the paper texture with the GLSL shaders is what it's all about. I don't use machines or computers because it makes my life easier. I love using machines because I think some kind of works are not designed for humans. So for me, this is really the combination, and this is why I use code and not regular software, because in regular software, if you want to do, I don't know, different kind of works, you can't, you just can't. If you want to start drawing, you need to use some robots because, well, you could, but at the end of the day, maybe you'll produce 5 artworks in your lifetime. Could be interesting, but I'd like to express myself a little bit more. So it's really this combination of the two, and using what technology is the best for and using what humans are the best for.